Lisa. In this video, I'd like to answer a question that I got on Facebook. So the question is, do you have the YouTube link where a person states that drinking milk is bad for you by someone? One of the best resources I've found is Dr. McDougall's talk on YouTube, and it's called The Perils of Dairy. It's on the Veg Source channel. He exposes the dairy industry for their spending on studies to try to prove the effectiveness of their products, and how the dairy industry tries to convince people that milk is healthy for the bones. I'll show a 2-minute excerpt of that video.
I mean, the picture that you'd have to have in mind, believing that calcium is so important for bone growth, is you'd have to have this kind of thought process going on. What I do to grow strong bones is I shove a lot of calcium in past my lips, through my esophagus, into my intestine, and if I shove it fast enough and hard enough, so I'll develop a high concentration in the intestine, which will push through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream and build up a high concentration of calcium in the bloodstream, and then it will get pushed into the bones and stuffed into the bones. You have to believe the gut is a passive sieve. You know what a sieve is? Something you drain your spaghetti with, a sieve. It has no judgment, no control, just a sieve, and that's what the gut wall would be. By shoving this calcium in, it just goes right in through the bones, into the bones. Of course, that's nonsense. Not only would that never happen in nature, but it would be deadly if it did, because if you consumed the gallons of milk and the handfuls of calcium pills that are recommended, you would die. You would die from soft tissue calcification. Your kidneys would be calcified, your muscles would get calcified, your heart would get calcified, and you would die. So what we have instead of this passive sieve is we have a very intelligent gut wall. It is so intelligent that when you do silly things like take these large, extraordinary amounts of calcium, it will block the calcium out and save your life. If you do something at the other extreme, which is to take a lower amount of calcium, say you just eat plant foods, rice, corn, oranges, potatoes, and so on, well, it will do, that gut wall, is it'll go out and reach out into that food supply, and it'll grab that calcium and pull that calcium in very efficiently into the blood, and it will always meet your calcium needs. Now, how do I know it always meets calcium needs? Because I have searched. The World Health Organization has searched. The United States government has searched for a single case of calcium deficiency caused by a low calcium diet. And we have all come up empty-handed.
Later on in the video, about 31 minutes, he shows that one of the studies that was paid for by the dairy industry actually shows that cow's milk is harmful to the bones. So check out the whole video because it is really interesting. Another great resource is Dr. McDougall's newsletter. So if you just type in dairy in the search, you'll come up with a few newsletters. So this is what one of his newsletters says. In their haste to sell products, the dairy industry has created an obsession over calcium that has become, in effect, a major contributor to the suffering and death of more than 1 billion people annually on planet Earth, from diseases of overnutrition, obesity, heart disease, stroke, arthritis, and diabetes. Consistently, when populations of people who eat different diets are compared, rates of hip fractures increase with increasing animal protein consumption, including dairy products. A good film that I recommend is Got the Facts on Milk, and I couldn't find an English version of the film on YouTube, but the trailer is there, so check out the trailer and then go to the website milkdocumentary.com. So that documentary shows that milk is linked to acne, asthma, osteoporosis, cancer, diabetes, ear infections, arthritis, and heart disease. Dr. Greger has also done several videos on dairy. Just search dairy in nutritionfacts.org and you'll get a few videos on dairy. In particular, there's one that I want to share, and it's about dairy, estrogen, and male fertility.
What's the connection? Well, a significant percentage of the saturated fat intake in the study was derived from dairy products, and residues of industrial chemicals may bioaccumulate up the food chain into cow fat, and then some of these lipophilic, the fat-loving chemicals, may have hormone-disrupting abilities. The EPA performed a national survey of persistent bioaccumulative and toxic pollutants in the U.S. milk supply. Since milk fat is likely to be among the highest dietary sources of exposure to this pollution, it's important to understand their levels. They tested milk from all over the country and found a witch's brew of chemicals. They estimate that dairy products alone contribute about 30 to 50% of our dioxin exposure. And like dioxin, other toxic pollutants tend to be widely dispersed in the environment, bioaccumulated through the food chain, and ultimately result in low-level contamination in most animal fats. But even in a non-polluted world, animal fats have actual estrogen, not xenoestrogen, but estrogens, which are unavoidable constituents in non-vegetarian nutrition. All foodstuff of animal origin contains estradiol, which is at least 10,000-fold more potent than most xenoestrogens, and dietary exposure, meat, dairy products, and eggs, to these natural sex steroids is therefore highly relevant, since the hormones in these animals are identical to our own. Cow estrogen works just like human estrogen. By drinking a glass of milk, a child's intake of estradiol is 4,000 times the intake of xenoestrogens in terms of hormone activity. Modern, genetically improved dairy cows can lactate throughout their pregnancy. The problem is that's when the estrogen levels can jump as much as 30-fold. Though cheese intake has been associated with lower sperm concentration, dairy food intake has also been associated with abnormal sperm shape and movement. So this suggests that dairy intake may be implicated in direct testicular damage, and not just potential suppression of sperm production due to the estrogen. We've known for decades that men with high cholesterol levels show abnormalities in their spermiograms. Decreased sperm concentration? About a third of the normal sperm movement and half the normal sperm shape. Though a healthier diet may be associated with healthier sperm counts, cholesterol-lowering statin drugs did not seem to help.
I hope that you'll get to check out those resources and let me know what you think. If you have any other resources on dairy that you'd like to share, just comment in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video.